Alright, today's Sunday, August 21st, 2022, and I was going to do a video here to show you guys the reality of trying to put a car together and when things go wrong. So for the past 2 weekends, things have gone wrong. I guess it first started out with the powder coat. We got a really good deal on all this powder coat stuff, but when my buddy Johnny with the Red Rocket was going to be delivering it down here, because the powder coat is up by his house, he got stuck in traffic for 3 hours. So that was a 3-hour setback on a Saturday when we only have 8 to 10 hours to work. So the powder coat showed up. We got the frame off. We started putting it together. If you guys remember, whenever we sent the stuff for powder coat, the bushings in the uppers and lowers and the trailing arms, they were all brand new. So I didn't see the need to knock them out for powder coat. We're just going to powder coat on top of them. Done it before. It ain't no big deal. Well, when we got all the stuff back, all the bushings were melted out. I don't think they melted in the oven. I think the powder coaters burned them out for some reason, because the reason why I believe they weren't melted in the oven is because we still have a rubber bump stop right here that wasn't melted. So we get the stuff back thinking we're going to slap the suspension together. Well, we needed bushings, so that was a setback. Luckily, I had some bushings. I had some bushings for my 60 frame, and he had a couple of bushings, but not a complete set. So we were able to make do, but that was another 3 or 4 hour setback. So finally, we got the front end on. Then after that, I believe, after that was he didn't have a center link, which we're going to get back to that. But also the rear trailing arm bushings got melted out. So we didn't have anything to put the rear end together. So he had to order some. Well, the following weekend, whenever it was set for delivery on Friday, so that he can have them on Saturday so we could put the rear end on, UPS lost them. So that was another setback. So last Saturday was lost, so we didn't do any work to this thing last Saturday. So we finally got the bushings, and he got all the bushings and had everything. We got here yesterday, and we started popping these bushings in, which went relatively well, I guess you can say. But so we were able to get the rear end on. So I said, okay, we're going to get the rear end on. We're going to make this thing a roller. Then we're going to slap the drivetrain on it. So that's what we did. So the rear end is on 2 weeks later. All new bushings and stuff. And then as far as the drivetrain, one thing after another on this thing. So he has a custom transmission mount made for this car, made for this transmission, made for this motor swap. And as you can see, the transmission pan hits right there. Also the cover hits. So I painted the transmission, or epoxy the transmission with the cover on. Cover hits the mount. Have to take the cover off for the transmission to clear the mount. Well, now you see the part that I didn't epoxy, which isn't the end of the world. It's just a transmission, but that's not how we wanted it to look. Next up, motor mounts. So custom oil pan, shallow F-body oil pan, I believe. It clears the frame fine as advertised. Plenty of space. But right now, this thing is supported by a 4x4 on the transmission. When the transmission is all the way down on the mount, the oil pan hits the center link. You can see right there, it's got about an inch clearance right now. Once you set that transmission down, it's sitting on the center link. That's going to be a no-go. You can't turn the tires. I don't know what's going on with the center link. The thing is beefy as hell. It's got to be at least 1 inch in diameter. I don't know why it's so big. He said he got it from O'Reilly, so it should be OEM. I don't know. So what we're going to do, so we tried to slide the motor back. So we slotted the brand new motor mounts, which weren't slotted, but we slotted them, see if we can make it work. And we spent 2.5 hours doing that yesterday, and the end result was it still hits. So another waste on that. So one speed bump after another. So I think what we're going to do next weekend is we're going to basically cut that center link and modify it so it can clear the oil pan so that we can get this thing going. Transmission mount, oh, that also. It didn't exactly fall in place. We had to drill extra holes Thing is advertised to fall in place to the stock mounts. That's not true. So we had drill holes for that. Just one thing after another. I've never put a frame this new to 6068. I've never done that, so it's a learning curve for me as well. I usually mess with X frames, but man, one thing after another. Outside of that, I'm trying to think what else we ran into that was wrong. The pan hard bar. They melted out the bushings on the pan hard bar as well. So he ordered new bushings, and this pan hard bar calls for 2 separate sizes, a small and a large. They sent 2 smalls, so we can't put the pan hard on until we get the large bushing. One thing after another. Outside of that, I think that's it. But just 2 weekends wasted. Big waste. But the motor does look pretty. The transmission does look nice. Oh yeah, when we mated it, the torque torque converter wasn't all the way seated. So the flywheel was rubbing on the oil pan. So we had to take it apart again, seat the torque converter. Just things ain't going like we're used to them going, like they should be going. I don't know why. I don't know what we're doing wrong. But we decided to take a break, regroup ourselves, and I think by next weekend, modify that center link. The motor will sit on there fine. Then we start wet sanding and buffing. Car still looks great, but you know, it needs a full wet sand and buff. But one thing after another on this roller. It sure does look pretty, and the powder coat was cheap, and they did a good job. But other than melting out all the bushings, which, you know, that takes some time putting them in, especially when you powder coat where the bushing goes in the arm. You got to grind out that powder coat so that the bushing fits. So a lot of meticulous work. I think that's all. I think that's all we've been running into, but we're just one step away from making this thing a roller. So I just wanted to update you guys what's going on here. I know it looks really easy on these videos where you just slap this in and sand that and paint that, but a lot of heartache goes on behind the scenes. So hope you guys enjoyed this little update. Bring you guys back next weekend.